Hello everyone, good day to you from wherever you're watching. My name is Aderonke Ogunleye and I'm your host today on Complete Sports on Alive TV. Welcome once again, and I want you to take your time to listen to this program and take all in because we're going to talk about a policy document, the National Sports Industry Policy (NSIP), which was recently stamped by the Federal Executive Council (FEC). This document has been put together by stakeholders. We have over 500 people that worked on this document, and today I have a guest that will talk about it. What exactly does this document entail? What is the benefit? Of course, it took them over 3 years to work on this document. They've been able to analyze it, look at the challenges, how they're going to overcome it, how is it going to benefit everyone, how is it going to go across board, how is it going to go to the people in grassroots communities, that person involved in sports, in villages, in township area and all of that. And when I come back from this break, I would let you know who my guest is. Then we can talk more about the NSIP. Welcome back from the break. With me today in the studio is Mr. Femi Adeagbo. Mr. Femi is a special advisor to the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport Development, and is one of the people that worked on this policy document from inception till date. Mr. Femi, welcome to the studio.
It's my pleasure. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. And as we know that the NSIP, now I don't want to call it the National Sports Policy, so let me just say NSIP, which is National Sports Industry Policy Document. It's here with us, right here, and you're one of the people that worked on this. Congratulations for this good job. It's really good and quite comprehensive, which is good, and every other Nigerian will enjoy. Can you tell us the document? What exactly does this stand for?
Thank you very much. Maybe the best way to go about it is first to look at what problems the policy seeks to actually address. So over many years, we've recognized the potential in Nigerian sports. But sports has always been measured in that sense by our athletes' performance at competition. And there's always been this, if you like, drama of funding. Over the decades, our athletes are stranded here, they're protesting there. There's been all this kind of if you like, underachievement within the sports sector. A lot of initiatives and policies have been attempted to rectify. Various bodies have come, But what has been lacking really has been that financial momentum within the sector to ensure sustainability. And across the world, sports is increasingly recognized as a business, not just recreation. This is a $700+ billion industry globally. So when the minister came on board, one of his priorities, because you have to remember it's a twin ministry, youth and sports, but most people that partake in sports are youth. So there's that intersection as well. So one of his priorities was, how do we get sports to a sustainable place such that the private sector can come in, as it is in other countries, collaborate with government, and catalyze the sector into a sustainable place. And that's married with some efforts that people like the National Economic Summit Group had been advocating for a while. So it was a perfect fit. So that is how the discussion, in a sense, started. But as you rightly mentioned, it was a Herculean effort, because you have to bring all the stakeholders, the bureaucrats, industry, you have to bring all these people into the loop, as it were. So that's why the effort took a considerable period of time, because if you didn't carry everybody along, you won't get it through the Federal Executive Council, because people will raise all sorts of objections, they will petition.
Which happened as well. In the process of the documents, you were able to dig holes, and as stakeholders were able to look at, correct the mistakes or the challenge you think that could prop up in the
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Because a policy document, maybe it's important to first articulate what a policy does. A policy is a statement of intent. A policy says, I've decided to do this. Once you have the backing, the Federal Executive Council backing, in a sense that this is where we're now headed, then we now start talking about operationalizing it, implementation, how we monitor, how but you need to get that approval first that this is the direction. So the direction is we have to treat sports as a business in addition to its recreational value and the other benefits accruing. And the first step, and this is very important, the first step towards that process was the reclassification in 2020, I think that was, yes, of sports in our NBS reporting away from business. And that was driven by President Muhammadu Buhari in council, the Federal Executive Council, to say, look, we hear you. We think there's something here that needs to be pursued. This needs to not be a business from recreation only. And that was the catalyst for going to actually develop the policy as it were. Yes. So it's been reclassified as a business in the reporting of national statistics.
Going through the document, I was able to realize that the government is trying to harness the commercial part of it, because over time we cannot deny that some people have been exploiting sports and making money, through sports, through maybe exporting talent illegally, or and also selling up all sorts of branded kits that are not supposed to be done, merchandising and all of that. So I believe this also captured the part of the program, especially the private sector, because I remember that during the AFCON, the last AFCON, there was this certain beverage company that was advertising their goods, trying to tag along the Super Eagles and all of that. And the NFF had to issue a press statement to say that, come on, you are not part of sponsors and you're trying to do this. So I'm thinking, if there is like an existing policy in place, something like this, you can't just come when you are not a sponsor. You didn't give us money to advertise when we are like attending an important tournament, and all of a sudden you are putting a national team's picture with your product and all of that, and they had to be, I don't know how they were able to sort that, but they were called out by the NFF. So aside this NSIP, this document, what exactly does it do? Can you just, in layman terms, for people like people out there that don't really understand big English, let me say it that way. So what exactly does it address, and how is it going to get to the grassroots? As we know that sport is played by everyone. If you go to my village now, you will see some guys doing sports and all of that. How do we monetize this? How is this document going to work for people in rural communities and of course in urban centers?
Thank you very much. It's a very, very good question. Let me take it in multi-part answers. When you have a policy, things like legislation would even come off the back of policy. Media rights across the world, I think, are probably about $50 billion in terms of value, which speaks to what you're talking about in terms of people abusing, the rights of others by packaging themselves with the Super Eagles when they didn't pay for those rights. Now, I'm not sure that there is legislation against that already in our general legal framework, but maybe not quite sport specific in that sense. So these are the sort of issues that when you run something as an industry, as a business, laws would evolve and emerge. People will register their interests and be able to actually take them before the judiciary if need be. So if I have got the branding rights for Super Eagles and you go and attach a product to it, then I would sue you because I'm the right owner. And because I've invested in those rights. So I have something to protect in that sense. I have an IP asset to protect. So in a sense, it's going to lead to better organization of the sector. over time, especially as we're going into the digital age. Rights are going to be abused, people are going to take things online. Before you can react, they monetize it, they run away. But when you have the structures in place, then you can address those kind of issues better. But to the second limb of your question, so what does it actually do? It's built on four pillars actually. 3 pillars sitting on the policy itself. Investment. Because you can't achieve anything without investment. And even though some people have invested extensively, I'll talk about that as well. There are local sportswear manufacturing companies in Nigeria who are doing very well. Alpha, very few of them. But there can be many more. Of course. And if I just take apparels as a small aspect of investment for people to think about, I doubt you would find any human being who doesn't have one, even if it's a jersey in their wardrobe. Whether they're children, whether you must have one.
Yeah, or a sock.
Or something. So just assume it's $1. Let's just assume it's $1 today's rate.
It's 850 naira.
So already you're talking about $20 million, aren't you? Yeah. As assuming the cost of an apparel, which it's
the parallel market.
Well, whatever it is, we know that's not the cost of an apparel. Yeah, and we know Nigerians buy these things. I don't know whether you remember that FIFA, the year we went to the World Cup, where we sold Nike.
Yeah, sold out.
Sold out.
Sold out.
Was it in 45 minutes or something like that? It was all
sold out, yes. So
people like Nike have recognized this, and guess what? They've come to open shop in Nigeria. As you know, Nike is just opened in Lagos now. They've actually opened directly, not through a Nike product.
Yeah, in Abuja.
So now, but do you know that I think about 85% of the Nike jersey comes from plastic? It's recycled plastic.
Wow.
So Nike buy plastic all over. They have a lot of investments in plastic refill sites where they then recycle. We here have a plastic disposal problem. Was sachet water, everything, filling up the drainage and everything. It's money. That's money's out there. But it needs investment. We're going to invest. But before you invest, you want some clarity about the investment environment. Where is their policy for this? If that country has no policy,
am I protected? Is my money
safe? Do they even know that they need to treat sports as a business? I'll carry my money to somewhere where they realize that. So that in itself sorts out that investment intent. Then you go to infrastructure. You need infrastructure for the actors to perform. Because sports is about the people acting or performing.
And it goes across board.
Exactly.
Everyone, including the Paralympic, para-athletes, even people that with disabilities, to people that are not with any kind of disability can also.
Absolutely. So you need infrastructure. But we all know infrastructure costs money.
A whole lot of money.
Sporting infrastructure is not child's play.
I mean, millions of dollars.
Absolutely. Not only to put it in place, but you have to sustain it.
Maintenance.
And this is the problem we have had. I mean, let's just take our stadium, for example. So, we've had world class, in terms of the build, National Stadium Surulere, people don't, for when it was built, it was serious infrastructure. Abuja is modeled after a major stadium in Germany. If you tour the Abuja Stadium, you will be perplexed. The scale, the facilities, the dressing room facilities, sauna for the players, it's world class. Ibadan, same thing. But these things, for many years, were left to rot. That in itself, apart from the fact that you don't now have the infrastructure for the actors to train, to excel, it also affects your national brand. It also it saps the inspiration away from even the athletes.
How do you even expect the sport to thrive when you don't have a place and conducive environment to practice the sport we're talking about?
So one of the litmus tests this minister brought into play was to say, okay, look, let's see the appetite of the private sector to understand the potential here. We can't have a national stadium where corn was literally growing on the pitch. I mean, I'm not saying that flippantly. So you can't have a scenario where you had a turf that was unplayable, corn and all sorts of growing on it. No, but it's true. We did say this in council as well. The minister did point this out in Federal Council. The pictures are there. Alhaji Dangote came in after listening to the minister's speech on why the private sector needed to get involved. He pumped in money. The government did some counterparts. It's a world-class turf today. FIFA came, accredited it. Gianni Infantino himself came, saw it. I mean, and you all saw that pitch when Nigeria played Ghana. I mean, water sprinkling systems on the ground. And then there's even a nursery to grow that particular type of grass so that, that's how you do these things. Lagos, Sulere, complete excavation. That's been funded by Alhaji Kesinti Adebutu, popularly known as Baba Ejebu. So, Lagos had businesses, brothels, all sorts of things there. People had some contracts, some lease. It was unbelievable. It was a mess.
So
it's been cleaned up now. That just shows you that proof the appetite of private sector.
Thank you so much, Mr. Femi. And as you can hear what he's just said, we have three important eyes in this document, and he has spoken about 2 out of the 3, the investments, and secondly, the infrastructure. When we return, we'll talk about the third eye, and just stay there, wait for us. We'll be back. Welcome back to the studio. I'm still with Mr. Femi Adeabu, Special Advisor to the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport Development. And earlier before the break, he was talking about the very important 3 I's in this document, the National Sport Industry Policy. And he has spoken about the first 2, which is investment and infrastructure. Mr. Femi, over to you. Tell us what the third I is all about.
Right. So we're talking about investments and the need for investments, especially in infrastructure. Of course, there are other areas, soft areas, welfare of the athletes, and other things, which we have even seen before the Olympics, all the problems of COVID. There was the Adopt an Athlete program, which saw a lot of corporate organizations taking up sponsorship of some athletes in that sense. So that again is private sector actually investing in sports. The third leg, of course, when I want to invest, what are the incentives? How do you make it sweet for me as an investor to come to your environment and not to somewhere else? So this policy outlines the general framework of incentives, taxation rebates for 5 years, single digits interest loans, state governments and federal were concerned, concessionary terms on allocation of land in that sense. Favorable terms for BOT, ROT frameworks. These are all frameworks used to say, look, I'm going to build it, I'm going to operate it, and then send it back, transfer it back to state government or whoever is the owner, or I'm going to repair it and operate it and transfer it. So all these models are captured in an incentive bouquet, if you like, which the policy has now said with this approval of FEC. Ministry of Finance, Trade and Investment, all the stakeholders. Women's Affairs, big stakeholder, because if you know,
of course,
almost all our recent sporting fortunes have come from women.
The most successful people, gender in Nigerian sports system to date are women. So
Well,
they
I
are
mean,
what
it's not a
the records are
competition in
there.
a sense. It's
I
just,
know.
it's just basically what it is.
So I'm glad women, I mean, gender is captured in the
Yeah, absolutely. And even during the FEC presentation, the Minister of Women's Affairs, in supporting the memo, made, a very strong, articulated position for women. And that's already,
rightfully so.
was already captured in the framework. Because don't forget what I said at the beginning. The policy says we are now going in this direction. Then you follow it up with your implementation plan and everything else. So the incentive bouquet focuses around those things: concessions, financial, favorable financial terms at the banks, even the sports value chain, single digits loan, flexible tenure, all these things that you actually need to ginger investors in a sense.
Yeah, so I mean, I recall that some years ago, I used to work with the Nigerian Football League, now the NPFL, now LMC. I've divided so much names after that, but it was Nigerian Football League at the time. And I was working in the marketing department, and I recall then that whoever brings money to the league at the time will get 25% off whatever tax they're paying. And we had so many people rushing. We had a major telecommunication company then that just took over like the sponsorship and just put a lot of money in the league at the time. And they got their 25% tax, I think 25% or 10%, I'm not so sure now, but as at then, there was like a tax, it's more like a CSR, thing for them, and also there will be tax cut for them. So I think over time, I'm not sure if anything like that, if it continues, I really can't say what. But as at that time, we had so many people rushing to invest, to sponsor the league, especially the big clubs as well. So this one now, what is the percentage?
What are some things?
Have you been able to fix a percentage for private organizations that put money in sports? Or do you make it like a CSR duty for them? I mean, how is it going to work for them?
Thank you very much. I'll keep going back to what a policy is. And a policy is saying this is what we're now going to do. It's not ad hoc anymore. It's not, football is doing this.
This is what it is.
Basketball is going to do that. So it's bringing these things into a holistic framework as a national policy
document,
which will get gazetted. And then from that policy, law, regulations start coming out, which are cast, well, I won't say in stone, but which should be clear for an investor, any investor, to pick up and say, okay, so if I want to sponsor this or that, this is what I get. This is the package that Federal Executive Council has now said that, the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development and the other stakeholders, Ministry of Finance, Central Bank of Nigeria, go and tease it now into specific details. You can't get to that point without the policy being approved first.
Yes.
So this is now the work. So the work is just begun, and it's all encompassing. It's media, journalists, all of you have a role to play. So it removes that ad hoc.
This reminds me
element
about something I want to say. Now that you mentioned the media, I mean, there was a time in some quarters in the media, some of my colleagues were like, the minister has given up on this. He has abandoned the policy. He started with so much energy, so much noise, and all of a sudden, we're not hearing, to the extent that some had to even blackmail the minister, thinking that, okay, he's just not serious about it. What happened? Why the delay? What took you so long? And what can you say about this report, thinking that it has been abandoned?
Okay. I think there are two major reasons for this. One is, as a people, and this is something we need to change about our national outlook, we've become very cynical of public office holders. Maybe it's justifiable over decades of trust deficit between government and the people being governed. But we should always remember that people in government always come from society, so it's still us we're talking about. You could be a minister tomorrow. Would that now make you somebody from outer space? No. To still make you from the same society.
Part of the system.
You're part of the country, society. So, but we built this culture of distrust, which we then translate very quickly into negativity. So that played its own role. The second thing is that I think people didn't have a full understanding of how you get things through Federal Executive Council. This is not about, I want to go and buy computers, or I want to build a road where it's bill of quantities and,
contracts.
Tender, but even for those, if you've ever been to FEC, it is not you breathe in and you breathe out. People read everything. That policy has been read by pretty much every minister from beginning to end. And I think when we went to FEC, I think about 13 ministers in all contributed and spoke.
On it?
Yes. And each one had their little points.
That must have been a hot seat.
It's the hot seat. It's not must have been.
It was hot seat.
Getting policy memos.
So much questions.
Through FEC.
Difficult.
Is not a child's play, because everybody looks at how does this affect my ministry?
Congrats. Wow.
How does it affect Labour? Honourable Minister for Labour spoke extensively. Dr. Chris Ngige spoke very well. FCT Minister spoke very well, made some suggestions on how we plugged into things that was done in FCT. Honourable Minister of Women's Affairs spoke extensively.
My constituency.
Congratulations as well. We just won bronze for the first time at the Under-17 Female World Cup.
Women.
So women again. So she articulated her points very, very lucidly, very clearly. And a number of other ministers, I just start to remember at the top of my head going through the table. The Vice President made his own inputs as well. So you don't go into FEC with something you can't defend. It will not pass.
You have to
period.
100%.
Yes, and I've been lucky to, under even previous administration, so I've accompanied other ministers to FEC. It's not.
So you know what to expect. So you put effort into making sure it's drill
you, and
if you're not careful, they can delay for another.
No, it's just they call it stepping down. So can we step this down, go and fix it and bring it back? Then you have to go back into the queue, because you're not the only one with members at FEC.
It could take like another year.
No, maybe this administration is actually fast with members, but this has been in the queue for a period. So it's not as if you just turn up and say, "Oh, I want to present next week." Doesn't.
So the people talking or saying things, they don't really understand this.
I don't want to use the I word, but it's maybe they need to be better educated in the press.
But they do educated. Some were told, but they just don't want to know. They just want the policy to be ready. Yeah. It was really like in the news.
So you can imagine it was half baked, and it went in and it
see failed. The media that will still talk. So
they will tell you to pieces.
Thank you for shedding this light.
So that process was involved. People were asking, which stakeholders did you carry along? Did you talk to this? Did you talk to that? So you had to make sure it was robust. That is why some 500 people participated. Don't also forget, there are people with vested positions who really don't want, they are happy with the status quo because it makes money for them.
Yeah,
there may be some bureaucrats who change or anything you just instantly, not that it's, in fact, in some cases, it could actually augment what they are doing, but because it's change, the tendency is for us to just resist and pause.
Mm-hmm.
You have to carry those ones along as well. Because if you don't carry them along, they will create problems for you in getting the policy through. So all this was involved, the consultation was extensive, it had to be broad, national, some international legs as well.
So the minister did not abandon this.
Not for one. This
so
was
they were unfair by blackmailing him.
The minister really had about two, I would say, pillars. One was, how do I invest in youths away from all this support and everything, yeah? And was able to push through the National Youth Investment Fund on the youth side of things. That's a 75 billion naira fund over 3 years. 25 billion, 25 billion, 25 billion.
Wow.
For youths who have entrepreneurship ideas or businesses. That initiative provides them with loans, moratorium, I think about 1 year or 2 years before they start paying back, and no collateral. Because the view of the president was that, well, we gamble on adults. Let's gamble on our youths too. Because people said, oh, they won't pay back, oh, this and that. Well, no. We have to show confidence in them. If they are criticizing us for bad behavior, let us see what they will do.
Let's empower them.
This is the money. Go and invest. Let's now see what will happen. And that was laudable. That's happened on the youth investment side. That initiative is already
it's running right now. It's running.
Yes, some youths are already taking advantage of it and catalyzing their businesses, be it small artisan businesses in technology and what have you. So that was the pillar. The second pillar for the minister, for me, macro policy environment, was NSIP on the sports side. Because yes, you can do what we call tactical interventions. Every now and then, okay, they are going for a tournament, you grab money from here, give it to them. But it's not organized, it's not sustainable. It doesn't give the athletes themselves the joy that their country is actually investing in a sector to propel them. So the NSIP for him was actually the icing on the cherry. So for anybody to say it was abandoned, it really just means that they have not been listening to what he has been saying on various channels. How can he abandon something that augments his own role as a minister?
Thank you so much for clarifying this, because we just need to talk about it and address it. And it's good to know now that this was not abandoned. We have to follow due process, extensive consultation, and to make sure that it is not only a policy document, but something that is implemented and made sustainable as well. And so I want you to quickly take me to, trying to round off now.
Yes.
Now we're looking at implementation. Now we have this that we've stamped, gazetted. Congratulations to you.
Gazetted, but
I think it's not been gazetted.
When you approve, then it goes through the process again. Gazetted. SGF's office.
Okay, so now after gazetting, then implementation, right?
Yeah, well, no, you can start implementing now because it's been approved.
Okay.
That just says that this is now. So somebody can't just come in the future again and just flip it out.
Yeah, so okay, now let me repeat the question. So now that we have this stamped by the FEC, where do we go from here? Who are the people that we should now look at inviting to the roundtable, especially the corporate world now, people in the commercial sector and all of that? Who exactly do you think should be our target? We spoke about the apparel, we have Afar, we have Sport, we have a whole lot of them, but I can mention the names right now. And how are we going to support them to maybe expand their business? How are we going to also encourage the ones that are just coming up, starting up, talking about, sport, of course, is entertainment. There's entertainment part of the sports aspect where people can also make money. There is apparel part of the business. There are even services, part of the program, empowerment program as well. Even program that you can also do in terms of anti-doping and all that. It's kind of broad. So who are the people that we think should be part of this? Now that the document is here, we have it. So what's next?
Excellent. So an implementation framework is already being worked upon, of course. And the value chain, as you have just enumerated, is extensive. Because sports recreates, fuels the economy, contributes towards well-being and health of the citizens as well. So you could be opening gyms, you could be focusing on grassroots talent discovery. There are businesses that can do these things. It could be the capacity building side, it could be the technology for sports side, it could be the data analytics for sports, it could be even in esports as well. Because as you know now,
getting popular,
yes, you could be in investing in upcoming sports. Dambe, for example, is worked extensively outside Nigeria. Dambe boxing, the one they do with one hand.
Wow.
But amazing. The viewership from Malaysia, it's unbelievable. On YouTube, it's in the millions. It's predominantly northern Nigerian sports. I mean, Minister actually hosted them because those are the kind of things that they invest in. We could say, look, why can't we even have this as an Olympic sport? Because Africa doesn't have one, despite the fact that we've participated for so long. So the value chain goes beyond just apparels, and it is extensive. So it's for everyone.
A whole business, actually. Sports is a whole business.
It's for everyone to find where they can slot
in. Can we talk about sport banking as well? I mean, I'm
sport
just saying there's a whole lot of...
No. Sport banking is big business where banks are set up specifically to fund sports. Because there's also specialization.
There are some banks that I know that have been involved in supporting, we don't want to just give them, they should bring money to advertise on our live TV. We don't want to make free advertisements for them.
Yeah,
so, I mean, basketball and football especially, I know of some banks that...
Extensive. And there's also a link with creative sector. I mean, you see people like Wizkid, for example, Puma Lagos. I mean, you know about the story of Puma Lagos. It's a sponsorship with Puma, but they actually did a range with Lagos on it.
Yeah, I remember.
Puma in sports.
Yeah, I remember.
So there's all this internet.
The academies can also make,
academies. So it's now for everyone to put on their thinking caps. This is a new industry.
So everybody can get involved. Creative industry, financial industry, clothing industry, entertainment, music, and the rest of the
sports is
so how do they life. How does it start now? So does it mean that we have to wait for the gazetting? After the gazetting, then implementation? So because now some people have the money to invest and they want to invest in sports, they don't know how to go about it. Maybe we'll come again to talk about it so you can teach people how to do sport business. Actually, maybe we'll do another session of this program where we can actually break it down, to the last
mile in that sense.
I'm trying to look for to the last strata in society where people can actually say, okay, that woman that sells orange, that ox orange, from that level to the big people that owns, millions of dollars that can actually put in business. So what I'm trying to say is, how can we get people to be involved, and how do they go about it? How does it start? So I know it's going to be wide. Can you just say briefly, looking at this document now, which is seeing sport as a business. So how do we make sports business? How can we commercialize it? For example, I have some money, I want to invest in sport business. How do I go about it? You mentioned ICT, you mentioned data analytics, ICT, and all of that. How do we go about it? Do you have to register with the Ministry of Sport, or you just have to go ahead with it?
Well, you see, the interesting thing is that all the fundamentals of running a business are already in place within the business framework.
Yes.
You want to start a limited liability company, you already start CAC, you say what kind of business it is. And there are already businesses in sports in Nigeria, a lot of them, aren't they? But what we are saying is that this now gives it that turbo charge, in a sense. That also lets people in that industry know that this government is now prioritizing business in the sports environment. Let me give you an example. Telecoms. What we have today came from policy to law. Yeah? Then at that point, a regulator was set up, NCC, so people had more confidence. Okay, somebody regulating. What we have today, MTN, for example, who are the market leaders, will turn over in excess of 1 trillion naira this year. If you go and look at MTN's business plan when they're coming to Nigeria, it was premised on less than 1 million subscribers.
Wow, I think they are the largest subscribers.
That is, Nigeria is a jewel in the crown. There's no question about it. So that gives you an example of what happens when government says, this is the direction I'm going. So telecoms, remember from the NITEL days, now we have land, we don't have this, that, we're coming, we're going. To when it was, this is policy, this is the direction we're going, we're licensed, and this is how we're now going to implement those steps. People also criticize them and made noise, it's taking too long, it's this, it's that. Now, but look at the value chain in telecoms.
Yeah.
From the person providing even the branding elements for just the telecommunications companies. It's in the billions of
people printing recharge cards.
People recharge card, and that moved to digital. So, new industry. Where do you start? Base station, the people providing energy solutions to them, people providing logistics, people providing security.
All of them.
So before you know it, you're talking about maybe 50 associated industries. Sports would be about that as well.
Yeah, I know when
it's limited only by the scope of your imagination. What the policy does now is that it's a wake-up call to everybody who has entrepreneurial drive. So now say, where can I play? Where can I play? If I've not registered a business, let me go and register first, so that when the incentive package is out, I can plug in very, very quickly.
Yes.
So that's why you will notice in the policy, those were the ministers were twin turbo, I think you call it, turbo charge the whole thing. So it's not that people don't know they can make money making garments or socks or one thing or the other, or providing some service. It's just not organized. And they don't see the inspiration. They don't think government, because when they look at the government infrastructure, the stadium looks one kind, looks one kind. So now there's that drive that, no, it's like, we've woken up. We've woken up. Sports is a business now that has to be urgently grabbed. And I urge Nigerians to, you see, there's amazing potential in this country. And there's a lot of money. Don't let people tell you there's no money. I'll give you two examples. Between January and June of this year, from 4 breweries, Nigerians spent over $500 billion drinking beer. Okay? I think it's about 540 billion. So, don't let people tell you there's no money. In August of this year, on electronic platforms, amongst ourselves, we transferred 33 trillion
naira.
Yeah, so don't let people tell, not to talk of the naira that sat in people's
houses,
which they probably have to bring out now.
That's
so don't let people tell you
otherwise.
Once we're saying that, foreigners are rushing in and grabbing all the opportunities. Since we are complaining about one reason or the other, no lights.
The opportunities
they are taking it. So I urge Nigerians to follow the lead of the look at the Dangote. Puts his money, and that's just support where his mouth is. So, Baba Ijebu,
And there are many more of this in the country and all that we don't want to start mentioning. They should try and come and
so let's channel our resources towards things that can multiply value in the economy, not towards value dissipation, which is a lot of what we do now as we complain. We spend so much money on things that are vanity. Our alcohol bill at the moment, I think it's probably, last time it was captured in imports, I think it was about $10 billion. So now I hate to think what we spend on imported champagne, whiskey. I hate to think of the amount of money.
Yeah, Mr. Femi, thank you so much. You've really
that's it.
Done a whole lot telling us about it. And to be honest, I would personally love to invite you again to talk about the business. Let's break it down, the kind of businesses that we could actually talk about it briefly some other time, briefly about what kind of people want to know. Some people have the money, they don't know how to invest, how to go about it, especially in sports. So I don't think this discussion is 1 hour is enough for us to talk about it. I think we need to continue talking about it to keep enlightening Nigerians. And this is a very good medium for us because Alive TV is online. You can always share the videos. You can watch on your phone to be able to know more about sports business and how to actually invest. Of course, you make your money back. It's sports, it's business, it's a big deal. in Nigeria and all that. We have the number as well. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It's my pleasure.
I really appreciate it. And personally, I'm also educated too. You have schooled me, like they always
Thank
say.
you very much.
And to the viewers, at home, thank you so much for your patience and thank you for watching this. I believe you've been able to, understand what the NSIP is all about, the policy document, that is the National Sports Industry Policy. And hopefully we'll come back again to simplify it to the market, the business angle, and to see how people can actually benefit, what kind of business you feel you can do in line with the document. And thank you so much. Once again, my name is Adorunke Oguleye, your host on Complete Sports today. See you some other time. Bye.